Hi, and welcome to my presentation on spiral of silence theory. I chose this theory for my communication theory analysis final because it was the theory that I felt I most related to personally, and it was the one that I was most curious about. Spiral of silence theory predicts that when people hold the minority point of view, they will remain silent instead of voicing their opinion, while the majority will speak out freely. For example, if a friend group is discussing the legalization of a new law and the majority of the friend group supports it, the friend or friends who do not might not say anything. It is believed the minority will remain silent because we as humans are constantly evaluating public opinions, and if we don't conform to the majority opinion, we fear we will be isolated. Elizabeth Noel Newman was the founder and author of Spiral of Silence theory. She was born in Berlin, Germany on December 19th in 1916. She moved around a little before returning to Berlin to earn her PhD. Noel Newman studied the media's influence on public opinion, which is what eventually led her to conceptualize spiral of silence theory in the early 1970s. This theory uses the empirical and scientific approach. We know this because Noel Newman's research relied heavily on data, polls, and questionnaires. When looking at spiral of silence theory, it is easy to see the theory has both strengths and weaknesses. To determine what those strengths and weaknesses are, I will be evaluating the theory using the 7 theory criteria. First is scope. It seems like this theory would have a large scope since we are looking at both the minority and majority opinion, but when you really look at it, it can only be applied when there is a differencing of opinion, making it have a narrower scope. Second is parsimony and how simple the theory is to explain. This theory is a pretty simple theory to explain. Noel Newman made it simple by only explaining why someone might not voice their opinion when it is the minority opinion. Third is utility, which analyzes how useful and practical a theory is. Spiral of silence theory holds a lot of usefulness and practical value by determining why we or someone else might not be inclined to share our opinion all the time. Fourth is testability, which we know this theory exemplifies because it was tested using data, polls, and questionnaires. Fifth is test of time, which shows how long the theory has been researched. Spiral of silence theory is still being researched to this day, especially because of new technology and social media, but we'll talk about that a little more later. Sixth is logical consistency, and this is one of Spiral of Silence's greatest weaknesses. Some researchers believe that the theory fails to acknowledge a person's ego and the influence a person's community has on their opinion. Lastly is heroism, which sees if the theory has been used to stimulate new ways of thinking. This is the other weakness of the theory because it has faced a lot of criticism due to the fact that some researchers tried to discredit the theory because of its lack of application beyond one culture. Spiral of silence theory is still being tested today. Its current status is mostly getting tested against social media and technology. Researchers have been going back and forth on if the silencing effect is evident in digital media. There were 2 studies recently done, where one study found that individuals tend to share their opinion regardless of the majority opinion because of the fact that they can remain anonymous online. But another study found that people are still likely to only share if the majority share the majority opinion, regardless if it's in person or online. The two main weaknesses about spiral of silence theory are it does not take a person's ego and effects of their community or group into account, and it has not been tested enough in social media. If the theory was tested in groups and then compared to outsiders' opinion, it would show if the theory has logical consistency or not. I would also recommend more tests in online forums to see what the effects social media has on our silencing. I have learned a lot about spiral of silence theory while researching and analyzing it, but the biggest takeaways I had concerning communication is the impact the other people's opinions and the media have on us. This theory showed me why it's sometimes hard to speak up when talking about tough subjects, but it's showed me that it's okay to speak up even if I appear to have a different opinion.